Grand Rising, great Grand Rising. I almost forgot. Had to do something for what you call Black History Month. And I wanted this to really go over very quickly about the Civil Rights Movement and the real hidden truth behind the Civil Rights Movement and why the Civil Rights Movement happened at the time that it did. It's a very, very interesting subject that most people don't like to broach. But, I mean, here on Dark Matter Radio and also with In Alive and stuff like that, we do get into those kind of discussions. The Civil Rights Movement was a Shim Sham, 100% Shim Sham, and it was a distraction away from all the other things that were going on in the rest of the world at that particular time. Great Grand Rising to us all. Great Grand Rising to all the people that are a part of this channel, and great Grand Rising to the light beings with soul within. Halito, Aseo, and I do love you all. So the Civil Rights Movement, I mean, it was at my age, it was my parents' movement, right? Our grandparents' hope. But actually what the Civil Rights Movement did was break up the black family. That's the first truth. It broke apart families, it divided the men from the women, and the strong family bonds they had all the way up into the 1950s were destroyed. Completely, 100% destroyed. They brought in all types of government programs, the kind of government programs people are trying to seek today, with welfare and all that other type crap, making sure that men were not able to spend any time with family units, period. That was the first thing. That's one of the things that came, basically out of the civil rights. But the main thing about the civil rights, what people don't realize, that they were out there, getting themselves bit up by dogs, marching all over the place and everything like that, water cannons, people still being hung, being shot and all that other type of stuff. What they didn't realize was that the rest of the world was being decolonized from their colonizers. In 1960, there was a resolution in the United States, resolution in the United Nations that declared any country, any place on the planet that was affected by colonization through war, the colonizers had to restore the rights and the property of the people in which they colonized, and then they had to get off the land. That's what was going on. That's the reason why when you seen Africa, you seen even Jamaica, the Caribbean islands, all of these places, for the most part, got their freedom from that. It was the 1960s Decolonization Act. One of the things that they couldn't allow to happen in the 60s is for that 1960s Decolonization Act, which gave anyone that was affected by colonization to be decolonized and for their land to be given back to them. That meant that the original American Indians, and if you know who the original American Indians, they're not Native Americans, they're the original people that were here on the land before any of the people came, had to have their land back. So what they did was that they created this thing called civil rights. Now remember, just keep in mind now, everybody around the world is being decolonized or getting their land back. They have a right to self-determination. That never happened here in the United States. The only people on the face of the planet that have never been satisfied with anything dealing with decolonization and getting their land back are what you call the so-called black people, so-called African Americans, which do not exist, the actual American Indian, indigenous American Indian, have never, ever been satisfied with anything that has happened to them. This is the reason why they came up with this thing called civil rights. Not human rights, but civil rights. A roach has civil rights. A rat has civil rights. Bats, birds, all kinds of things have civil rights. And they put you on the same level as all those things. So they went out there to give you civil rights instead of actually doing what they were supposed to do, decolonize you, give you back your land. Instead, they had you fighting for the crumbs when you should have had the whole entire table and everything that's associated with it. Not only that, but you became protected, meaning that the colonizer had every right, responsibility to make sure that you were able to educate yourself, set up your own political system, set up your own governmental institutions. You had every right to make sure that you had your own land, that you were to live outside of the system upon which colonized you. So when they set up this thing called civil rights, they downgraded and tried to get you to agree. To be a part of a system that doesn't want you, never loved you, never cared for you, and was geared and designed to genocide you. They try to get you to agree to be a part of this system by making you think that you were part of the system with civil rights. Now, that's the great sham. The great sham is that any American Indian right now should be fully entrenched in their own system, no different from any other country around the world that was decolonized. You right now, my friends, should be living in a totally different type of format, totally different type of governmental situation. You should be living without your colonizers. You should be totally 100% decolonized underneath your own governmental system. That's what it's all about. That's the reason why the civil rights movement had to take place, so that they can divert the whole entire United States into a vacuum, so where you will not be able to be entitled to get what you were deserved. And what you're deserved is for the colonizers to be able to leave your land, so that you would be able to be protected amongst yourself with your own governmental institution, able to educate yourself, able to eat decent food, able to breathe pure air, able to manage your own forest, drink pure water, and a whole host of other things other than what you're under right now. So this is the thing that I want you to understand. This is what it's all about, right? And also, it gave you an opportunity to get out of the doctrine of discovery. So there's a lot of things happening. Know your history. If you don't know your history, you're deemed to repeat it. Great grand rising to us all. The civil rights movement should have been the decolonization of the United States. And every single American Indian, so-called black African American, should have been able to formulate their own governmental situation on their own land, outside of the constructs of what the United States corporation and its government has right now. So that's it. That's the truth of it. That's the truth of the civil rights movement. It was a sham. And it actually did more harm than good. But, you know, we have to work with whatever we got to work with to get ourselves out of the mess that we're in. And with the new generation that's coming up, and that is here, we are here. It's our responsibility to make sure that we push forward and push through the decolonization of our people, and make sure that our children have a legacy. It's not up to our children. Not up to our children. It's up to anybody that is above the age of 18 and all the way up to the age of 99. It is our responsibility. This is our time. This is what we should be doing. So this is the reason why I say, light beings with souls, and all those that are friends to them, great grand rising to us all. Peace be upon you. There it is. The great civil rights sham.